Nation, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video as we continue our Blueprint Summit series. We get into the sections now where we are basically taking a huge deep dive into specifically treating the London session and trying to put everything that we've learned into context when it comes to specifically trading the London session. So if you trade the London session, this would probably be a good video for you to watch. And there are a lot of things spread out throughout the entire video, guys, that I think will be very helpful to everyone that trades the London session. A couple things to consider while watching the video is that I am actually talking to students while I'm filming the video, so there's a lot of questions and stuff that you may not see, but I try to answer the questions and talk about what the question was so you know what I'm talking about. But without further ado, let's get this video started.
All right, somebody pick a pair, any pair. So GA. So we picked GA. Somebody picked, Hassan picked August. Ward picked the year 2020. So let's go ahead and let's play this out and let's talk about what is it essentially that we're looking for when we're wanting to trade the London session, right? Let's go through this and see if we can pick out trade setups that would work the absolute best for us. And let's see how many we can pick that are correct versus how many we can pick that are not correct, because I'm sure we'll get some of them wrong. So, all right, let's see what we come up with. So let's go up to 15-minute time frame. All right, so a couple things first is if we look at the previous week, right? If we look at the previous week, what market weekly cycle was? So we had a trending cycle the previous week. And then how about the week before that? So this week here, what was the cycle then, the weekly cycle, market maker cycle? So we went from a market maker cycle to a trending cycle. So that's what we're working with so far, as far as the data and information essentially that we have, right? So obviously I don't know what the ADR is at this particular time, back almost a year and a half ago. But just by looking at this, let me just go up to the higher time frame real quick. This might look like, at least to me, like a peak formation low, right? And from this low, we've gone up 600 and some odd pips. So clearly, we've gone up more than 3 times ADR. Okay. Now, I want to say, I know back then when the pandemic was going on, like pairs were doing like stupid moves, like both London and New York session, right? So you would see, you could see here 97, 66, 69, 132, 108. Freaking, so the ADRs were kind of like, kind of all out of whack at that point. So I didn't find them very useful in 2020 because they were just astronomical and very, very unrealistic, I would say. All right, but let's play this out here and let's see if we can start to identify any kind of setups. And because this is London session trading, we're only going to focus on London session. So once we get through London, we'll play the rest out. We'll go to the next day. Okay. So do you guys see anything so far? Right. So start thinking about, the possibilities, right? What are the possibilities of, possible setups, right? Based on where we are now. And the only reason I stopped it there is because we ended up getting a pretty big railroad track there. So generally that's a good sign for maybe a first leg or so. So we're also here on the TDI. We're getting to that area of where you would probably want to have a type 2, right? So what do we need to happen, basically? What do we need to happen next? Right, we need a second leg, right? We need a second leg to form, hopefully. So who knows? For all intents and purposes, this could like shoot straight up. But let's see what we got here. See if we get any kind of stuff going on here. So I want you guys to notice something. Notice how this high is being protected. Why? You have to ask yourself why is the high, or why is that area, why are they pinning? Why pin here? What's so special? Why would they want to go past this? Also, I think another important thing that I just noticed is, if you look here, we're close to 84,000. So if you don't know, right, psychological numbers, there are things called psychological numbers that retail traders like, that we all use. It's in our head. It's on our human emotion that to use, zeros, right? So like, I don't know about you, but I found myself when I first started trading, and I didn't even know about this. I just started noticing that I would always put like my stop loss right at an even number, like an 800 or whatever, 100, 200. You get what I'm saying? Like I didn't know I was doing it. It was just something that I just felt good about putting it at a 100 or 200 or whatever the case may be. I don't know why, and I didn't realize it until later on why I was doing it. But yeah, so there's the quarter points is something a little bit different. But what I'm saying is just psychological numbers of zeros, right? And so what I want you to notice is that price does react at the zeros. So think of this 83,200 is like literally where where the Asian bottom is, right? You see what I'm saying? So like even this 83, 100, if you expand it out, it's basically here, here, and here. So price seems to react at these zero numbers. But anyway, so if we have this one leg here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles, essentially, that's good, right? So what does this have the potential to be? What setup? So yeah, on the first day of the week, I mean, I don't really, that's not too, that's not too much. The previous week. Yeah, the previous week high is here, so we're like already past that. Yeah, so this yellow line here, right here is right here is the previous week high. So you need exactly how you guys are saying, across a railroad track, star pattern, close below the 13, right? All that stuff. Yeah. So you can already see as well the TDI is already forming an M. You see that? And granted, I mean, it's very slight, but you can see that the first leg and second leg are off each other, while this is all the same. Right, so you do have the slightest or very small divergence there, which is good. So let's see if we get anything that could help us get into the trade. So there would be a trade right here. This is, would you guys consider this a railroad track? So here's the beauty of, Gerald, I wouldn't consider that a cow, no, because you want a cow to be like 4 solid candles back to back to back, I would say if this was if you had another candle that was like this, that was 4 in a row, then yes, but not 3 in a row. So if I want the beauty, here's the beauty of doing this is the fact that in real time, right? You're given about 15 minutes, right, per candle. But here, if you really think about it, you can go back one candle to really see what did that look like at the end of the candle. Because remember, you make trading decisions based on the closed candle, not the one that's open, right? So if you look, what did we have as far as confirmation? Start listing out what confirmations do we have so far. Yeah, so start listing out what confirmations do we have so far out of what we see right now on the screen. So Hassan says 5 candles. Yep. Railroad tracks. Yep. What else? TDI hook, first and second leg in London's. Yep. TDI. Yep. Pins to the EMAs. We're not pinning to the EMAs yet, so, or we don't have any pins or anything to the EMAs. If we were pinning to the EMAs, you would have like an EMA up here, and it's pinning to the EMA. You know what I mean? We got slight divergence, yeah. So we got the TDI. We have first of all we have the pattern, right? We have a pattern. We have it in the right timing, so that's 2. We have 5 candles in between the first and second leg. That's 3. We have railroad track. That's 4. We have TDI forming a big M. That's 5. We have divergence on the TDI. That's 6. Somebody else said a hook. We have the hook here. That's 7. We got a crossover of the green and red line. That's like 8. Do you need more confirmations? So the trade itself would look like, something like this. Remember, this is a pound, this is an AUD pair, so your stop losses have to be higher, up to like 25 pips or so. So your stop loss is 23 pips. And then to get 2 to 1, you're really aiming to get 47 or so. But since ideally we want to go to the 200, but we don't know if prices are really going to go down that far. So we can start using essentially either the 30 pips first, which doesn't give us a 2 to 1, by the way. So you want to get to a 2 to 1, which is here. So it's about 48 pips. And you have to remember as well that pound AUD, the pip value is extremely high. So this is not, we're not asking it to do anything phenomenal or crazy or anything like that. We're just asking it to do, something normal. So for me, I would want to go to at just the bottom here of the bottom of the Asian range, right? I don't know why, but I don't like it just being out in midair like that. I like it to go to a significant place, whether it be the middle, the bottom, or whatever. So in this case, I would want it to go to somewhere close to the bottom of the range. It's going to give us almost a 2.5 to 1 risk reward ratio. Does this make sense to you guys? So it went all the way down to 75 pips, so a little bit further. So, let's say with the spread, let's call it like 55 pips or so, just to be on the safe side. So 55 pips, you can see what happened. So let's go to the next day. All right, so far we pretty much have on Sunday, Monday, we pretty much did nothing but what? We just went sideways, right? That's all we did. We went sideways. Nothing crazy or anything like that. We just went sideways. So on Monday, or I should say on Tuesday, let's see what price action gives us, or what they give us in general here. All right, let me stop it here real quick. What do you guys see? Do you guys see anything at all so far. We're super early, by the way. So in the London session, so. Right, pins to the 200. Yep. Same. The directional bias that we would be in, at least the directional bias that I would be in, would probably be. If I look at, let me just go to the 1 hour chart real quick. I would probably be in a more of a selling bias. Although we don't have a crossover yet of the 50 and 13 yet. I don't know what the ADR, is for at that time for this pair. I could only assume it was some ridiculous, you know, um, some ridiculous amount. But I do know that this looks like to be a peak formation low here. I know that we have one level here, and this possibly could be the third level. So basically like this, right? So something like that. Yeah, that's a good point as well, Gerard. That there's, there's definitely divergence here on the 1 hour. Yes. So good point out on that. Yeah. So yeah, my bias is more towards selling than buying at this point because of all of this. If I knew exactly what the ADR was, I could probably, shape this out to see where we are. But um, knowing that we're averaging on these days here like 200 pips or so a day, when you measure this out is like 600, 700 pips or so. So, let's just say if the average at this time was, let's say, 200 pips, this would technically be about 4 times ADR or somewhere around there, 3.5, So if that's the case, then I would definitely be looking for sells more than buys. But yeah, so you're trying to maybe pin to the 200 here, right? But I'm looking more towards I bring this up because this is how my mind thinks, right? If I'm looking for sells, my mind is like automatically gravitating to having this price go up here and get rejected off the 50 and give me a type 3 to sell. Okay? So because of my directional bias that I have of looking for sells, like for me, this automatically like gets canceled out of my brain where I don't pay attention to it too much. And I'm not towards the bottom here anyways. I'm pretty close, but I'm not really towards the bottom. But I don't know what it is. My mind is just automatically switches this off where I don't really pay too much attention to it unless if it was like down here or something, then I would definitely grab my attention more. But what I would really want in my ideal scenario would be for this to come back up, hit that, and then come back down for a type 3 is what I would want it to do. Whether it does that or not, I have no idea. I can tell you that this is not going to go back up. If they wanted to go back up, they would have done it. They would have gone back up. This is not coming back up. This right here, this big candle here, is probably going to lead them down. This is probably going to end up with no trade. With no trade set up for us because of that. So I would almost say this is almost reminiscences of a type 4, but the pullback that happens literally on top of the bottom of the range. So for a type 4, I want this to be clear and then come back, touch the bottom, and then do that. So this would be a day that I wouldn't trade. All right, so Wednesday. Yeah, good point out. Yeah, exactly, Joe. Full day of drop on Tuesday. So it's a great question. So full day of drop on Tuesday. What does that give us? What options does that give us? Yeah, exactly. I was thinking more of the weekly cycle. So Yeah, it could lead to a market maker cycle. You also still have the possibility of a trending cycle though as well. Exactly, Joe. It's either a market maker or a trending cycle. Yeah. So we'll see what happens on what is this, Wednesday. So I mean, right off the bat, notice how it came out of the middle like this. So right away, for me, before it could be any kind of a trade setup, right? It would need to come to the bottom like it's doing now, and then do something before it could become a tradable trade or whatnot. All right, what do you guys think so far? What's your mind set at looking at this right now? Right, it's clearly one of two things, right? Either type 2 or type 3. So the question becomes, is it a type 2 where it's a trade out of the edge type 2? Or some of you thinking that it might be a type 3? If it's a type 2, that would be your trade. For me, I would still be looking for sells, is what I would be looking for. So the question becomes, if I'm looking for sells, what would I need to happen? Obviously, looks like it's getting kind of stopped out here at the 50 as well. Let me see what the next candle is. So there's the next candle. I think the question would be then is, how big is that candle? 19 pips. Okay, so essentially would you need, I should say, a pullback? Because this right here, what is this right here? What is that pattern right there? Right, it's a star pattern, right? And so for those that were thinking that that's a type 2, you don't have, it's like all of your things that you're looking at there at that time weren't incorrect, right? You had things that were telling you, hey, this could be a really good trade out of the edge, where you had your first leg, second leg here. It's well before the time you were seeing divergence here on the TDI. So it's not like you were seeing anything bad or wrong. You had really good risk to reward ratio. So all that stuff was there. But what was the one thing that was not there? Directional bias. Yeah. And so let's just pretend that this is peak formation high. Right? If this is peak formation high here, you're basically saying you're looking to trend against peak formation high, which is something that you shouldn't do. The only way that you would really want to trade against peak formation high is like if you are here. Like if you're already past this and you're down at level 2, sure, you will definitely get trades back up, right? They're short-term trades, but the trades themselves are going to be, you will have trades that go back up, right? So it's okay if you're here to trade back up. What you don't want to do is trade back up when you're here, because the majority of the time you're going to get stopped out. So does all that make sense? But yeah, so here you have a star pattern, pinned to the 50, pinned to the middle, actually pins to the weekly low, and a pin off the 50, or reaction off the 50. So what does that look like here, by the way? Let me see. 25 pip loss, or 25 pip loss to that. Let me ask you, would that be a viable trade? That would not make any sense to take that trade. Like it would have to, yeah, you need a pullback. You would need a pullback, exactly. But for this to even make sense, it would need to be more like that. And if you can see to the left here, you're out in the middle of no man's land. There's nothing here. There's no structure here. Right? There's no structure here. So the likelihood of this actually going down here is probably not very high. You see what I'm saying? So the only structure that we have is kind of like down here where this is. And coincidentally enough, this is here, here, and then also where the 800 is, right? So theoretically speaking, this may not be a good setup. This is not a good setup for a type 3 pattern either, right? The only way that this would make sense to be a type 3 pattern is if we get a pullback, and it's got to be a pretty big one, at least half the candle back, so we can take it to the 800 and it'd be something like that, right? So that would be the only way that that trade would be a viable trade that would make sense. So let's see if we get a pullback on this next candle, because if we do, then that would be a 2-to-1 trade that you can take. And so look where it goes to, right? 800. So you see, it went down to here, and so even it would have been on a pullback here. I mean, you're looking almost very close to 2-to-1, but not really kind of realistic, right? All right, so let's go to the next day then, because this is... So look what ended up happening. What do we have here? Right, we ended up getting a multi-session, type 1 actually. Yeah. Multi-session type 1 and the US session. Now you can start to make sense of what's really happening here, where you get that this is the first leg here, the second leg is here, so you do get some divergence on a multi-session, and you get a star pattern on the second leg. So that's your entry right there. You use a 200 as a take profit. So do you see how on that one day where you could have made this trade here, but you didn't have directional bias, right? Or this trade here could have been made because your risk to reward ratio was off. If you get on a second leg, if you get that second leg to be a railroad tracker star pattern or a quarter wood, yes, you don't have to wait for the close of the 13. You can wait for the pullback though, right? So do you see the importance of having like literally a list of things that need to be in place? Because if you didn't have the list of things in place, you could have taken literally this, that would have been a loss, and this actually might have worked out if you were paying attention to it. You know, if you weren't, but you were out here in the middle of no man's land. So having the parameters there in place are there for a reason, to keep you out of bad trades, or to try your best to keep you out of bad trades. There's going to be some trades, by the way, that, man, they meet all your check boxes, and you could have bet your mom's house on it, and it's, and you end up losing them. But I mean, the goal is not to be 100%, because you're not going to be 100%. Nobody's going to be 100%. All right, so let's see, this is Thursday. So what are we thinking right now on the week? So far, what are we thinking as far as, like, let's say weekly cycles? Right, you're thinking market maker, right? Is what's more than likely, because it looks like we're getting a midweek reversal. Joe, yeah, there's still a possibility that it could be a trending cycle, but for that to happen, we would need to get a sell on Thursday, not a buy on Thursday. You get what I'm saying? So for this to be a market maker cycle, you definitely want to buy, and for this to be a trending cycle, obviously you need to sell. There you go. So right off the bat, what's the only possible trade that you can take? Well, right now where price is, Mohammed, what's the only possible trade that you could take that's still possible? Right, would be a sell. Right, it would be like a type 1 because price is already broken through the top. Right, there's a small possibility you can get a type 4 because it could come down to the top of the Asian range, but yeah, where there is a possibility of a type 4, but most likely type 1. Most likely. And you're also getting you're also, the TDI is already at the top as well. So if this is true though, if that is a if you do end up getting a sell, right, or a type 1 sell, let's say, then that would mean what exactly for the weekly cycle? Right, that would mean that it's a no, it would mean that it's a trending cycle. If you get a sell here, because for it to be a market maker cycle, you want it to buy, you want it to be a buy, you know. Yeah, exactly. So trending. So do you see how like you literally get like the good stuff, right? You get consolidation, full day of drop on Tuesday. You actually get what looks to be a good reversal, a good midweek reversal, right? And then you end up getting this to where it's like, oh shit, why is it like you didn't get a setup here? You didn't get a setup here to buy, and price shot straight up. And then you're like, okay, well, wait a second. Well, if price shot straight up, then the only option that it would give me would be a type 1 sell to take. So there's your type 1. It's ended up being a multi-session one. Well, the first leg is here, and the second leg is all the way up here. Notice how this went higher than that, and then obviously this didn't. So you had some divergence here. So you see how it makes the bigger M. It's not coincidental, by the way, that look, previous week's high is here as well. So they were targeting this to begin with, this previous week's high. It's a tricky one, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, they're not all going to be perfect, right? But this is what they look like in real life. So let's see what we get on Friday. Friday is kind of a tricky day, obviously, because it could be used for setting up the next week. But yeah, let's see what we get. What do you guys think so far? As far as cycle goes, Gerald, it would be a trending. Yeah, it was a trending cycle, right? So this is the last day. Last day of the week. Well, I wouldn't say it's the only option, but I mean, if you're saying that for trading this, you're talking about like a London session type 3 setup, basically. Is that what you're saying? So like something like this. Yeah. So a couple things on Friday. For me personally, I don't like to trade a lot of Fridays, because generally speaking, they could do whatever the hell they want to on Friday. So as far as like a setup here, what it looks like right now, the only setup that looks to be anything viable on this would be a possible type 2 setup here. Maybe this is the first leg, and then this could possibly be the second leg. The biggest concern that I have though is right here, when you have all of the EMAs above you and you're literally having to break through all that. So that's a huge concern for me. So just seeing all of this would just not be very attractive to me. It just wouldn't, you know, I don't know, I just don't like it. Mohammed, I think that what you end up seeing a lot of times you'll end up seeing like complete accumulation during the London session, and then the actual move happens in the New York. So again, it just depends on whether or not they have enough contracts to make the move that they want to make. So I'd be So think about it like this: a behavior of market makers would be if they wanted, let's just say that they wanted to do this, right? But in order to make this move here, they need a lot of people to sell. So then they can take the other side of it and buy, right? The problem is, let's say they don't have enough people selling. So what they do is they'll spend London session going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this whole time, they'll do nothing but collect contracts. And then by the time they get to the New York session, they'll have enough contracts to actually make the move. And you'll see that it's really apparent. This isn't, I don't think, a good example, but you'll see that it's really apparent when they're doing it in London, because literally the price action will literally be stuck in a box. It'll just be going back and forth, 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 back and forth. It'll just do this the whole session. And so when you see that, you automatically know that they're collecting contracts. And the move itself is going to happen in the US session. That typically tends to happen a lot when you have upcoming USD news, like big USD news. Sam, do I trade Mondays? Yeah, I trade some Mondays. It just depends on whether or not a lot of the trade setups that I would take on Mondays would be with the fact that I've identified a peak formation high or low that just happened the previous week. So like, let's say a peak formation high or low that was just formed like on Thursday, Friday. Right, so that would give me a clear directional bias on that, on the upcoming week. You know what I mean? So I know that, okay, I'm looking, if the peak formation low or high was created on Thursday or Friday, I know next week that I'm going with that. So because I have that directional bias already from the previous week, then I'm just literally looking for the setup that takes me with that bias. There's honestly, Sam, there's no best days to trade, because it's there could be trades every day. Generally speaking, if you take a big pool, right, of a year, the best days to trade, if you look at it from that aspect, is going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, if you're looking for a very specific like midweek reversals and stuff like that. But as far as a day, like a pattern, type of day pattern and stuff, the patterns could happen on any day. Generally speaking, you'll get the most action on Tuesday or Thursday. Yeah, the bias can be short. Yes, absolutely. Your bias should be short, but you're getting into a point where it's Friday now, right? So you're past already like the initial big surge of sales, essentially. So here, let's finish this week out real quick, and then we can talk about it. Yeah, so you see what they did here was down, sideways, 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 sideways. The 50 acted as resistance, pushed it back down. I see. So pay attention here. Start to ask yourself, why are they not passing this? That's really what you should be asking yourself, is why are they not passing this? You're correct. It is a weak low, absolutely. So but ask yourself, why are they not passing this? And now, I don't know about you, but if you start looking at this now, this starts to look more like a first leg here, a pullback, and a second leg here to go up. Do you see that? But do you see what I'm saying? Like, first leg here comes up, second leg, you have some pretty good divergence here on the TDI as well. See, look, a pinning to that same area. Why would they be pinning? You see that? Look, why would they be pinning to that area and then another pin? Do you see the behavior? That's really what it comes down to. If you can understand the behavior, This is a multi-session one, so this will probably go through all this stuff, through all the EMAs. Maybe go to this bottom structure here. So like, but the good lesson here to learn is about behavior. I can't express it anymore. Ask yourself why. What's so scary about coming down here? There's nothing here. Why are they not wanting to hit it? Just always ask yourself why. Why are they not wanting to hit it? So does this make sense to everybody? So now, just this particular week, if you were trading just London session, you would have had one trade that week. If you're just trading London, unless you took, let's say, this as the type 3, that wasn't really a good risk reward ratio. But one good trade on Monday. Now this is only one pair, right? So let's just say if you're following, I don't know, three to four pairs because you're only trading London. I think with trading, 3 or 4 pairs, you could have gotten maybe 3 or 4 trades for that week, depending on, whatever pairs you're trading. If you're trading the US session, it would have been a really good week. If you're trading the US session, then you had this trade here, this trade back up, this trade back up, and possibly this trade back up too. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4 trades. And it's not always like this, by the way. So one week you could have 1 trade during London and 4 on US session. The next week you could have literally, 5 on London, none in New York. So that's why you have, a couple pairs to look over if you're trading just specifically one session. If you're able to trade both sessions, then you're looking at 5 trades. Somebody pick a different pair. So somebody else pick a different pair that didn't pick the pair before. USD CAD. Let's do a euro. Let's stick to a euro or pound pairs because we're talking about trading London. All right, so we have GJ. So how about Sam pick the month? What month are we doing? All right, so we want to do March. Got it. And let's have Gerald pick 19, 20, or 21. Which one of those 3 numbers? All right, so what do we got here so far? What's the last week, or what's the previous week's cycle? Well, the previous week's cycle was a trending cycle because you had sideways movement on Tuesday. You didn't have a one-way directional move on Tuesday. And then if you look, actually, the week before that was also a trending cycle, and the week before that was also a trending cycle. So you had 2 trending cycles. So check it out. So this week here was a market maker cycle. You see that? Full day rise on Tuesday, midweek reversal, drop, and then trending. By the way, if you wanted to get a picture of what like a really good example of a market maker cycle would look like, it would be that. If you had to paint a Mona Lisa of what a market maker cycle would look like, it would be this right here, literally to the T. So this cycle on 2020 February, first week of February, was the perfect market maker cycle. So yeah, you had trending cycle and then literally another trending cycle, back to back, and then followed by a trending cycle but back down. All right, so again, we're gonna focus on London. Yeah, we're gonna focus on London session here only. So Let's see what we have so far. What would you say your your bias would be essentially because of just what we have so far in the sense of the previous week? You know, I can assume that this right here was a peak formation high here. You know what I mean? We still got a ways. I went up to the 1 hour chart here because we still got a ways before these two cross over to potentially, you know, give us a whatchamacallit, a move back up or whatnot. By the way, interestingly enough, this right here, if you look, this is a big point here, and you had a retracement. I don't know if that would mean a trade out of the edge or not, but that would definitely mean that. Look at that. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I mean, you didn't have a good entry here though, because you could have a first leg here, a second leg here, but where's your, you know, where are you going to enter? This doesn't really close below it. It's not until this one. This candle's too big. Yeah, it's like a 50 pip candle. There's like no way. So that would have been the move in London. Look at this on US session. There's your multi-session W there. With, look at that, a nice, oh my god, 3 dojis star pattern and divergence on the TDI. Got a lot of good stuff there. So what's the directional bias still? What would you guys think about directional bias on this so far? Well, I'm not talking about like a weekly cycle. I'm saying like just your bias in general. So for those of you that are saying long, give me some reasons why you're thinking long. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm trying to get into your mindset of what's you know, what's giving you that mindset of going along. Well, Sharon, do we have a peak formation low? Like, did we get a peak formation low yet? We don't have a peak formation low yet. That's confirmed because we don't have a 50-13 cross on the 1 hour. So if I'm looking at this, here's the way that I look at this, is the fact that unless price action tells me that I'm looking for a buy, like I wouldn't change my bias, you know? We are seeing less coming off the peak high, but we've also moved like 700 pips too. You know? Plus another thing is like we're like kind of like in the middle of nowhere here on the TDI too. Right? So if you think about it, like on this day here, it was obvious as far as what kind of a pattern we could trade, right, when we got into the US session. Because we're right here at the low anyways. Right, so we wouldn't be looking for sells during the New York session. I mean, granted, we haven't even started this London session yet, so we don't know what we're looking for yet, or what price action tells us we're looking for yet. But the overall, if you look, the bigger picture, right, if you look at the 200 and the 800 is still well above us. So we know that on the 1 hour and on the 4 hour time frame, the 50 is still trading above price action, right? So the overall bigger picture is still selling off. What we're kind of wondering is, okay, well, when does that sell off end? You know what I mean? So we could start buying. Yeah, I mean, you would definitely pay attention to the news, as well, yes. But I mean, since we're back to, we don't know when the news was. You know what I mean? I mean, here, just think about what's happening here. What's the options for a trade setup here? Well, I'm not talking about patterns as far as like RoboTrax, Strap It. I'm talking about like a pattern to actually trade. A long multi-session. What do you mean a long multi-session, Mom? Okay, that wouldn't be I wouldn't even think about that at all. Yeah, I wouldn't think about that. The only way this brings up a really good point. You bring up a really good point, Mohammed, is the fact that you guys are wanting to see, since your eyes aren't trained to see, like the patterns over and over and over again. Like you guys are seeing like stuff like out of nowhere like that. Is that what you're seeing, Mohammed? What I'm the only thing that I'm looking at here is potentially this being a first leg, but I would need this to come back up for a second leg type two. My bias is still to go short until proven wrong. Like for me to start buying, I would want price to break past this stuff, these highs up here. Because price breaking above these highs here is what's going to get me the 13 and 50 cross on the 1 hour time frame. Does that make sense? And so if I can get that crossover on the 1 hour time frame, then I'm like, okay, cool. Now we can say, hey, this is going to be peak formation low, and I can start looking for buys. So the only thing I'm thinking about right now is whether or not this comes back up to give you a second leg for a possible entry of a sell to do this. I mean, that's a railroad track there on that. And didn't come all the way back up to the top either. Does anybody else see this trade, or is this just me? All right, this trade only works for me if I get a pullback. If I don't get a pullback, it's not going to work. Because I don't want to risk 20-something pips. I'd rather risk like 15, 16 or something like that. And the point about this trade for me is the fact that if I'm wrong, I'd rather be wrong right away and just get taken out in the next candle. I don't want to be wrong and then let this drag out for freaking 8 candles. Do you get what I'm saying? Like for me, I'm very impatient on just waiting and waiting and waiting. Like if you're gonna take me out, freaking take me out already. Like I don't, I'm not trying to wait. But yeah, I need a pullback on this. If I don't get a pullback, there's no entry. There's no trade, essentially. So that went where? To the bottom. See, I went to the bottom of the thing, though. And then also, this one here, if I take away the boxes, you see how this spiked down here? Well, if we put the boxes back on, where did it spike to? What's this line here? Spiked to the previous week's low, which is here. You see that? So does everybody see how I got to this trade? Or do you not understand how I got to that trade? All right, so let's see what happens next day here. I mean, so far, what, two days in, what does this look like? Right, accumulation, yes. So just to make it simple, there's, this is essentially what we have to work with, right? The low of Sunday, the high of Sunday, right? That's our range essentially. You know what I mean? So if this is an accumulation cycle, the ideal setups that you want, because essentially all you're doing is you're trading support and resistance that week. Do you know what I'm saying? So the trades that you want are going to be down here for buys and up here for sells. Does that make sense? In an accumulation cycle where it's just doing this, this, and this, like the best setups are going to be up here and down here. Because all you're doing is just literally you're trading support and resistance back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You're still getting the pattern, right? All that stuff is still the same. So right off the bat, price comes off the middle of the range, right? So we don't care about that. We need it to go either to the bottom or the top and then do something. Oh, there you go. Goes to the bottom. All right. Think about what's happening here. I'm thinking in the sense of, what I'm asking is what's happening in the sense of what price action is doing. or really, what's the behavior that market makers are doing, right? It's basically creating a huge little block, right? It's just moving sideways. Just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Right? And you're close to the bottom, right, where the line is or whatnot. It's where this line is right here. So really, you gotta ask yourself, why? What's so special about this line here that you won't cross? Or why are you not going below that? Why do you keep spiking the same numbers over and over and over and over and over again? You know what I mean? Just ask yourself why. Why are they doing that? And so what is it that you're looking for essentially to get out of that? I mean, as far as a trade setup goes, like, you're trading in a range of 15 pips right at the low of Asia here, right? So ideally on a type 1, right, you want this to be like down here somewhere, right? You don't want this to be up here, right? If this is up here, this is more like a type 2 pattern because it's working the low of Asia, right? So the possibilities here for a trade setup is going to be essentially like a type 2 type of trade. Yeah. So what we're looking for here is, here's what I'm looking for: one of two things. I'm looking for this little box. Let me draw a box here. To keep going, to basically keep doing this, and then this, all the way to New York, right? And New York should probably give you some kind of a buy order, or buy setup, I should say, right? If not, the only other thing that I've seen happen before when you have something like this is you get what I like to call like a shift candle, right? It's a candle that basically moves outside of that box structure. That tells you, hey, we're ready to like get out of here now, right? We no longer want to be here. Yeah, kind of like a breakout. So yes. So we want something, that tells us, hey, we're ready to leave. We don't want to be here no more. We've collected enough contracts, right? And so those are really the only two things that I would want to see, is a shift candle that moves outside of this range, that basically just one candle that would literally take out the rest of the entire section. That tells me, hey, we're out of here. We're leaving. We're no longer interested. Okay? Because at the end, if you actually switch this over to a line chart, like, all you're seeing is just this, and this, like that. So we're looking for one of those two things. Or I'm looking for one of those two things. So like that is what I'm looking for. You see how that one candle takes out the entire rest of the trading session that just happened? That's the shift candle that I'm talking about. So you're either looking for this, or you're looking for this entire box to just keep going sideways until you get to the US session. Those two options. And so you even got a gift of a pullback here, like damn near half the candle. You see that? So your trading decision, when you make a trading decision, right, you're making it after this candle's over with. Right, after this candle's over, then you make a decision to either get in the trade or not. Right, you're not making the trading decision while this candle's still going. Okay? Because then, if you make a trade decision to get into the trade during this candle, you're only basing it off of this actual previous closed candle. If you wait for this to close and now you're making your trading decision on this candle, Now you're basically making your trading decision based on this candle alone because it's a closed candle. It's over. And so now that you've waited for that thing to close, this candle, when it first starts, it was fully red candle going down. Does that make sense to everybody? This was a full red candle coming down first when it first started. That would be your pullback, right, that you would want to get into a trade. So what would that look like essentially? What does this look like for you? So it's a 14.5 pip, stop loss if you're going, if you're coming back on this pullback candle. And so to get 2 to 1 is basically the middle of the range. Do you see that? The middle of the Asian range is your 2 to 1 risk reward ratio. And then if you wanted to extend it further out than that, you have the 200 EMA here, which is all the way up here. Now that's almost damn near a 4 to 1 risk reward ratio. You see what I mean? So you have your first option here, which is 30 pips, 2 to 1, and then a second option here. And then a third option would be like all the way the hell up here, is the 800, but you have like other options like here, and then all the way up here. But that's your first option there. So where did price go to? Price went to the 200. Let me ask you a question. How many of you would have totally freaked the hell out on that next candle? Like, holy crap. They're going to take me out. Right? They're going to take me out. Holy crap. They saw me get into the trade. Now they want to take me out. This is why I don't look at the trades once I put them in. I just close it. So I walk away. Because you can't get emotional over something that you can't see. Or that you're not paying attention to. This is why I do not watch the trades as it's going on. I come back later. Let's go to Thursday here. All right, so Thursday. So again, price coming out of the middle. Can't do nothing with it until it goes to either the top or the bottom. So nothing happened, or nothing. There's nothing tradable there. Lots of wicks, exactly. Lots of just crap. There's nothing tradable there at all. So this is a day that you don't trade. So we're at Friday. So we're Friday, and all right, so if we take a look at the whole week, right, it's Friday now. Pretty much stayed, pretty much sideways the whole week. But, so here's Friday, and interesting point is that we're like here on Friday. We're like now a little bit, kind of below the line here on Friday. We're super extended out on the TDI as well. And pay attention to the EMAs here as well too. I only bring this up because there's only... Think about this. From what you're looking at here, what would be the best possible trade setups that you could get if you wanted to look for sells? What are the best possible trade setups? If you're looking for a sell, what would it be? So some of you saying type 3, type 2, type 3 with the pin to the 50. Yep, that would be pretty badass trade. Yeah, because you're actually pinning. You would actually be pinning the middle. You'd actually be pinning the yesterday's low, and you got the 50. So that'd be pretty badass trade. But yeah, Gerald, type 2 also. Another would be another best scenario because you have the 200 here, so the 200 would act as resistance, right? And you could basically have a pin to the 200 there as well. So yeah, so those are all good, good possible trade setups, right, for a sell. What would be the best possible trade setup if you're looking for buys? Because, I mean, honestly, it's Friday. You can kind of get either one. Ideally, you would want to buy because you're hoping that this range here, right, this stays intact. Essentially, and you get a buy. But because it's Friday and you're towards the bottom already, you're already trading towards the bottom, there's a chance that you could do something like that. And yeah, there's a chance. So let's see what happens here. It's kind of weird though because you would have to really, to have that perfect type 3, you'd have to have this come back up and then do that also when it's really all the way at the bottom. But we'll see. Let's see what happens here. It came back up. Is it going for type 2? No, it's not. So what would you guys say there? Would that be a type 3 setup that you would take? Okay, so what would you need to enter the trade? Ward, pull back to the middle. Okay. Second leg. Well, you don't always get a second leg anyway, so. But definitely, I would say a pullback for sure. But yeah, you don't normally get a second leg. If you do get a second leg, great. But a lot of times, at least lately, I don't see a lot of type 3s that have 2 legs. All right, so we need a pullback. So what would this look like? Just what does it look like now? So yeah, so now it's a 21 pip stop loss. That's really tight too, by the way. And then you need something like that, right? So I think too much risk. You want to pull back. So you want to pull back to where you can get like 15 pips or so. So that's a 15 pip stop loss, pull back, and then now you could actually go back up to that right there. Do you see how big of a difference that makes? Having the pullback. See how big of a difference of a trade setup that is? When you have a pullback versus not. So there's your trade with a pullback or with not a pullback. It's huge. It's a huge difference when you want a pullback. It makes a big difference. All right, let's play this out, see what happens. There's your pullback. So that actually went down like 70 freaking pips. Actually more like 89 pips. So that turned from a 2-to-1 to like damn near 5-to-1. Oh no, pay attention here. This is funny. Pay attention to this in the New York session. What would be the trade setup in the New York session? A type 1, right? You get to buy type 1. You have divergence on the TDI, or actually not like that, but like this. Yeah, so that one went another 90 pips back up. So on that week, you had 1, 2, 3 trades. 3 trades that week. And I mean, this one could have been way bigger, up to 80 or more, 51, 52. Yeah, you could retire. Yeah. I mean, you to to really, um, if you master one pair, I mean, you could trade it in so many different ways, right? So, I mean, the rules. Think about it like this: the rules that I give you for entries and stuff like that, those are like the rules to get you the best possible trade, right? But the best possible trade doesn't happen every single day, right? But if you backtest a one pair specifically, let's say, and you get to know that pair and how it behaves, then I mean, because of the backtesting that you've done, you know things about that pair that nobody else knows. So a a student who trades GU. That's the only thing that he trades. He started out trading it, or not GU, but pound AUD. He trades only pound AUD. It's the only thing he cares about. It's like his whole life, right? He doesn't care about anything else. He calls it literally his wife. He calls GA his wife, and this is all he trades. And he first started trading it, like this. He went back and back tested it for 3 years. So meaning like went back to the charts, replayed 3 years worth of charts. And now he trades GA, still GA only, but now he literally trades it whenever he wants. He trades it during Asia, during London, during US session. Like he trades the whole damn thing anytime he wants. Because he knows that pair so well and how it behaves. So it absolutely is possible to just trade one pair.
Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed that particular video. I hope you got a lot of value. I hope it brought you a lot of insight to trading the London session and things that you should look out for, and what kind of different thoughts you should be thinking about whenever you're trading the London session. Until the next video guys, thank you so much. Please like the video, helps with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. We will see you in the next one. Guys, if you need any more help or you like the content that we provide on this channel, come on over to the FXN Masterclass. It's available right now. What you get essentially is a lifetime membership, a full mentoring course, an advanced course. You get the Blue Summit videos, weekly Q&A sessions every Sunday, group session archives, which that by alone has about 100 hours of content, weekly analysis videos, midweek analysis videos, MT4 and MT5 indicators, a customized trading journal so you could actually journal your trades every day, and then a backtesting journal that you can use to backtest and collect all of your data. Not to mention a mentoring private chat, guys. So all the information is in the link in the description if you want to join now. We look forward to seeing you there, guys, and take care of yourselves.